Betty that on stage for the last 2 years. I regret that, and I don't have very many regrets. In the 60s and the end of the 50s and the 60s and going into the 70s, everybody was writing protest.
Picture this: Los Angeles, 1977. The air smelled of champagne and heartbreak. Rock stars ruled the city. Men with wild hair, velvet jackets, and egos as big as their amplifiers. Stevie Nicks, standing at the top of the music world with Fleetwood Mac, watched the chaos unfold around her. She had seen fame's seductive power firsthand, the way it turned love into obsession and friendships into feuds. Now, decades later, she finally exposes the truth about the 7 men who defined that reckless decade. These weren't just stars, they were heartbreakers, manipulators, and masters of destruction who left scars deeper than their songs. And for Stevie, it all began with the man who knew her best, loved her hardest, and hurt her most. It started close to home. Stevie's relationship with Lindsey Buckingham was both magic and madness. They had met as dreamers, lovers bound by music and ambition, but success turned their love into war. By the time Rumors was recorded, their romance had exploded into shouting matches and silent revenge. Lindsey's brilliance on the guitar was matched by his cruelty off stage. He wanted control over the music, over the band, over her. Stevie saw a man who could write heartbreak like poetry, but live it like a weapon. Their feud would define Fleetwood Mac for decades, each performance dripping with both love and fury. And as she tried to escape the shadow of that heartbreak, she stumbled into the arms of another man, one whose calm exterior hid a heart made of ice. Think of Don Henley, the sharp-eyed perfectionist behind the Eagles. To the world, he was a poet of California's dark glamour. To those who knew him, he was a man impossible to please. Stevie was drawn to him in the late 70s, a brief romance fueled by fame and fleeting affection. But Henley's charm was all surface. Beneath it lay calculation and detachment. He was always in control, even in love. The affair ended in pain and distance, leaving Stevie disillusioned with the very scene she helped create. Behind his cool demeanor, Henley was fighting his own battles: jealousy, artistic arrogance, and the slow decay of a band built on rivalry. After Henley, Stevie found herself seeking something real, something wild and unguarded. That's when she met Joe Walsh, a man who lived every moment as if tomorrow might never come. Joe Walsh was everything Henley wasn't: reckless, funny, and tender in unpredictable ways. To Stevie, he was chaos in human form, and that was precisely what made him irresistible. She called him the love of her life, but their relationship burned like gasoline on open fire. Beautiful, fleeting, and destined to end in ash. Walsh was a brilliant guitarist and a tortured soul, drowning in addiction, guilt, and the restless need to escape himself.
I was talking to your brother-in-law about it last night.
Yeah.
About the fact that when you were in Fleetwood Mac, you are in this like elite band that's been together since 1975.
When they met, he was already deep into a haze of substance abuse, his laughter masking exhaustion, his eyes betraying a sadness that no song could hide. Their nights together were wild, filled with laughter, confessions, and long drives through Los Angeles at sunrise. The two of them speeding down empty highways with the windows down, lost in the illusion that they could outrun their pain. There were moments of pure connection when the world felt still and their souls seemed to align, but those moments never lasted. Behind every tender smile came a crash: missed shows, violent mood swings, and long silences where love couldn't reach him. Stevie tried to save him, but instead she was pulled deeper into his storm. Loving Joe meant dancing on the edge of destruction, and when she finally walked away, she did so with a piece of her heart missing. But heartbreak had a way of following her. The next man in her story wasn't just a lover. He was her bandmate, her secret, and her undoing. The rhythm of Fleetwood Mac hid its deepest secret: the affair between Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood. It began in quiet moments during the chaos of Rumors, when both were reeling from broken relationships and unspoken exhaustion. Late nights in the studio blurred into confessions, whispered over dim lights and half-empty glasses of brandy. Mick, tall and commanding behind his drums, carried a loneliness that mirrored her own. Married and tormented by fame, he found comfort in Stevie's fragile warmth. What started as fleeting solace soon turned into a dangerous addiction. They needed each other like oxygen, but knew the cost would be catastrophic. Their romance was intoxicating and disastrous. Every stolen glance during rehearsals, every note sung too close, added tension to a band already tearing at the seams. When the truth surfaced, friendships fractured like shattered glass, and what had once been Fleetwood Mac's strength, their unity, crumbled under emotional weight. Stevie and Mick's love burned fast, and when it ended, it left behind scars that never healed. Yet even in heartbreak, their chemistry lived on in the music. And while Fleetwood Mac's drama filled the headlines, another kind of storm was brewing outside their circle, one led by the troubled poet of Laurel Canyon, David Crosby. David Crosby was the philosopher of rock, a man with a mind as sharp as his tongue and a personal life in ruins. Stevie met him during the mid-70s Laurel Canyon scene, when musicians floated between studios and mansions like ghosts chasing inspiration. Crosby's charm was intellectual, his conversations intoxicating, his laughter deep and contagious. He carried himself like a poet, always surrounded by smoke, guitars, and the faint chaos of too many ideas colliding at once. He seemed to live between reality and dream, always chasing something he could never quite hold. But behind that thoughtful exterior was chaos, a whirlwind of impulse and destruction. His womanizing and drug abuse had already cost him friendships and nearly his career. Stevie saw him unravel in real time. The endless parties where everyone pretended to be fine, the recording sessions where his temper would flare, the empty stares after nights of too much powder and too little sleep. Watching Crosby's decline was like watching the decade itself collapse under the weight of its own excess. And soon, Stevie would come face to face with another kind of legend, one whose pain echoed her own, wrapped in the haunting sound of the blues. Eric Clapton was already a living legend when Stevie entered his orbit, a man who could make a guitar cry but couldn't find a way to heal his own heart. His charm was intoxicating, his voice laced with melancholy, and his eyes heavy with secrets that fame could never hide. To the world, he was untouchable, a master of blues, the man who turned pain into poetry. But behind the spotlight, his life was a battlefield of betrayal and regret. When Stevie crossed paths with him, she found a man haunted by his own legend, a star who had everything and yet nothing at all. His flings with famous women were front-page news, but behind the headlines lay nights of silence, pills, and an endless search for meaning. Their encounters were charged with tension, a strange connection between two souls who understood the price of fame too well. Clapton's story was a reflection of her own, the loneliness behind applause, the ache behind genius. But if Clapton's sadness was buried in blues, Bob Welch's sorrow came wrapped in quiet tragedy. Before Fleetwood Mac's fame exploded, Bob Welch was the bridge between their blues roots and superstardom. Stevie had admired him deeply, both as a musician and as a gentle soul haunted by the same ghosts she carried. He wasn't loud or arrogant like others in their circle. He was thoughtful, sensitive, and endlessly creative. Bob's melodic sensibility transformed Fleetwood Mac's sound, shaping the path that would later lead to global fame. But as success grew closer, internal conflicts, business pressures, and the arrival of new faces pushed him aside. Stevie saw how his quiet brilliance was overshadowed by egos louder than his own. When Bob left the band in 1974, it wasn't just a resignation, it was a heartbreak. The group moved forward, climbing toward superstardom, while Bob was left behind to watch from the sidelines. He tried to rebuild, but the world forgot him too quickly. Depression followed, creeping into every aspect of his life. His story was a painful reminder of what fame could take away, not just success, but identity, dignity, and peace. When news of his death came years later, it hit Stevie like a song unfinished, a verse left without harmony. And as she stood alone in the quiet that followed, she realized that all the men she had known, friends, lovers, rivals, were not just stories in her past. They were the living ghosts of an era that had burned too bright. By the end of the decade, the glitter had turned to dust. The bright lights of Los Angeles, once symbols of promise and endless nights, now felt like reminders of everything lost. The 70s had given Stevie everything, fame, love, and immortality, but had taken just as much. Her voice, the heartbeat of a generation, carried stories of men and memories that had left her scarred. She had watched those she loved fall to excess, swallowed by ego, addiction, and the illusions of grandeur. Each name carries songs, but a ghost, each song a confession hidden beneath rhythm and rhyme. Lindsay's fury, Mick's guilt, Joe's laughter fading into silence. They lived forever in her lyrics. The Womanizers of the 70s weren't just lovers, they were symbols of an era when desire outran reason and success devoured the soul. Years later, as Stevie stood on stage, the crowd roaring before her, she realized the truth. She had outlasted them all, not in ego, but in endurance. The men she had once loved had become legends and ghosts, trapped in their own myths, while she had turned pain into poetry. Picture this. The stage empty, the lights dimmed, the echoes fading into stillness. The love, the fury, the music, all of it belonged to the past. Yet somewhere in the quiet, Stevie Nicks still stood beneath the remnants of the spotlight, her shawl brushing against the floor, her eyes filled with the memories of every song she'd ever sung. She had lived through the fire and come out shining. By telling the story of those who burned too brightly, she had finally set herself free.